Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of My Thoughts. Today, I'm going to be doing a My Thoughts on Super Bowl 57, which just happened last week, last Sunday, and I figured I'd talk about it after the game happened, so I could talk about the outcome as well. And I'm going to go a little bit into detail. So, first of all, I don't really usually talk about sports on the channel. I'm a huge sports fan. I like basketball, hockey, football, all that stuff. I'm a huge fan of those three sports mainly. And I think the last time we really talked about sports, actually probably the first time we ever talked about sports on the channel, was the very first My Thoughts episode. I did My Thoughts on the NBA Finals, which was pretty good. It was kind of a starter episode for talking about sports, but yeah, Super Bowl 57, and I also have Madden gameplay going. So if I ever talk about sports on the channel, just kind of a little thing. If I ever talk about sports on the channel, I'll try and have whatever sport I'm talking about in gameplay, like Madden or NBA 2K or something like that. Whatever sport I'm talking about, I'll try to have the gameplay just to kind of fit the theme. But yeah, first of all, I'm a sports fan for football, basketball, hockey, all that stuff. I'm a Philly sports fan, so I like all the Philadelphia teams: Sixers, Eagles, Flyers, Phillies. Even though I don't really watch baseball, but I watch baseball a little bit. But yeah, as you probably all know, the Eagles were in the Super Bowl and they unfortunately lost, which will obviously go into that. So Super Bowl 57 was a match between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles in Glendale, Arizona at State Farm Stadium, which is where the Super Bowl took place this year. Um, Now, I'm kind of going to go on a little bit of a rant. You guys are really going to see. I don't know how much I did this in the NBA Finals because none of my teams are really in it. But as an Eagles fan, I'm going to go on a rant on how the game was played. First of all, Philly, they did great this season. They did an absolutely phenomenal season for the Eagles. They were undefeated for the first few weeks of the season, and then they ultimately, obviously, ended up making it to the Super Bowl. And first of all, a lot of people can say how the game was played. You know, the refs bought them out. The refs, were the refs. It's always the refs. And the Eagles fans, and including me, honestly, I'm saying that right now that the refs they made some horrible calls. They made some honestly horrible calls, and I'm gonna have to say that not all of them were fair, including a maybe big game decision, that pass interference call at the end of the game, which people said that it wasn't pass interference, but it was. Even James Bradbury, who was the one who held Juju Smith-Schuster at the end, he was the one who came out and said that, yeah, hey, I held him. I just hope they wouldn't see it. His words exactly, come to think of it. You know, that was controversial, but to me, it was a plain pass interference call. They got that right. So that was a pretty big controversy. And then just the whole game flow was kind of off. Philly kind of had them in the first half, like in the first quarter and the second quarter. It was a tight knit game, and then after the third and the fourth, obviously, after the second half, they kind of went downhill. Eagles just kind of lost their touch. Their defense didn't play as good. They got a good amount of fumbles in there. There was fumbles off a touchdown. There was just a lot of stuff in there that the Eagles could have definitely fixed and got wrong. And if they kept the same energy that they did in the first half, I think they would have definitely won this game. They could have definitely played better. That's what I have to say. And I'm an Eagles fan, like I said, so I'm giving them a harsh criticism. But good for them to making it to the Super Bowl. Not everybody wins it, of course. I don't think that their team. I think the Eagles this year, at the very least, going into the playoffs and kind of going into the Super Bowl, they were kind of overrated. If I don't know if that's a necessarily bad thing to say as an Eagles fan, but I don't think they were ready to go into the Super Bowl. I don't think they were really ready to go into the Super Bowl and play on a big stage like that. Yes, I think a lot of people said they had an easy schedule and they had an easy playoff, they had easy playoff opponents. If you beat a team, here's how I see it. If you beat a team in the NFL, it's as good as anything. There's a bunch of professionals on every single team, right? They've been playing football for years and years and years on every single NFL team. They made it to the National Football League. They made it to the big leagues. So if you beat a team in the NFL, it's just as good as anything. No matter what players they have, every single player is good and worthy of playing in the NFL on the team. So if you beat any NFL team, it's good. Team against team, it's a good win. So I, however, disagree with the easiest schedule. Yes, did they have an easy schedule against a lot of teams? I would agree, yeah, but it's still tough to beat any team in the NFL and make it to the Super Bowl. So that's why I view them making it to the Super Bowl in the first place. And maybe overrated was the wrong word. I think I'm trying to say overhyped. Their playoff run and the season run and all that was overhyped. And once they made it to the Super Bowl, I think that all just kind of fell down and the hype kind of fell down, and their team wasn't ready for the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts is a great quarterback. It was his first Super Bowl, of course. He's been with the Eagles for a few years now. They drafted him as a rookie, of course. Jalen Hurts is a great quarterback. I think he's really good, and he deserved to get to the Super Bowl. You know, everybody does, but I just don't think they were really ready. You know, after they got to the Super Bowl and they started playing the Chiefs, I just don't think their team was ready. If they sign a few more guys and they get out there and do work in the offseason, I think they have a fair shot of making it next year. They have a lot of good weapons on offense and defense and all that. The Eagles' defense is loaded. Same thing with their offense. But it's just, I don't, it just looks like in the Super Bowl, it's just the Eagles just look like an unready team. They weren't ready for the stage that was presented to them. So I'm, as an Eagles fan, talking about this. My final thoughts on the Eagles in the Super Bowl. They weren't ready. Um, and you guys know me just with anything. I'm the first to come out and criticize something no matter what it is. If it's my favorite game or my favorite sports team, I'm the first to criticize it. They weren't ready for the Super Bowl. They weren't ready for the kind of big stage that was presented. So that's kind of the final thoughts on the Eagles. And then the Chiefs, I'm going to talk about the Chiefs and them. Congrats to them for winning Super Bowl 57. Great run. Did they deserve to win the Super Bowl? That's a big question. Again, if the Eagles won the Super Bowl, they deserve it. If the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, which they did, they definitely deserved it. But I think they went down against a severely, now I don't want to say unmanned, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but a severely unprepared, unready Eagles team in the Super Bowl. Because you know when a team's ready to play the Super Bowl and you see their effort. And I just don't think the Eagles were ready for the Super Bowl. So they beat a severely unready team and unprepared team. But they have a lot of good assets on the defense. It's not like there were a bunch of people were injured or anything like that. It's just that the Eagles were unready. And I think the Eagles themselves as a team have nothing to blame but themselves for being unprepared and unready. But that's just me. That's what my thoughts are, of course. Everybody has a different opinion, though. Congrats to the Chiefs for winning Super Bowl 57. They made a good go of Super Bowls in the past few years. Patrick Mahomes played great, even though they're saying actually after he got injured late in the second quarter, then they went into the locker room and all that. They're saying that he took performance-enhancing drugs, which is definitely not true. That's a rumor that's been going around, but everybody debunked that, and that certainly put a damper on their Super Bowl celebration. But no, Patrick Mahomes did not take performance-enhancing drugs. That was clearly debunked. I thought it was a bit suspicious that he got injured. He went into the locker room and kind of played like that because he played really great after that injury to his ankle. But no, that's just ridiculous. People say anything, but no, that's definitely not true. So yeah, congrats to the Chiefs, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about the halftime show because it's a staple in every single Super Bowl. Rihanna performed in the Super Bowl halftime show, which she did pretty good. It was quite an interesting show. I watched it, and a lot of people are saying a lot of different things about the halftime show, which I think it was decent. Uh, Definitely not the best Super Bowl halftime show in the recent years. I think the best Super Bowl halftime show was last year's Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and all that in Los Angeles where they played. So that was a pretty good halftime show last year, but certainly not the best halftime show in my opinion. But it was all right. I mean, it was passable. I like the fireworks and the pyrotechnics and all that going. That was pretty good. And it was kind of crazy how she kind of rised. She was in the air with the whole pillar things. I don't know what you want to call them, but the whole pillar thing. But yeah, probably I'll give it a 7 out of 10 halftime show in my opinion. Wasn't the best, but it also wasn't horrible. I mean, it was decent. So that's kind of it. That's kind of all I wanted to really talk about. I'm a huge Philly sports fan. Congrats to Philly for making it to the Super Bowl. It's not easy to do that. I'll always say. But if you guys are football fans or just Eagles or Chiefs fans, let me know in the comments below. What do you guys think of the Super Bowl? And who won? Or think it was fair? Or the calls? Anything? Let's discuss. I would say. Uh, and in terms for Philly, we still have the Sixers. Sixers are doing pretty good. The Flyers aren't doing good at all, I'll say. uh, Sorry if I was a little bit sniffly in this video. You probably heard me sniffling. Actually, probably the past few videos. I apologize for that. My allergies have been getting to me. It's kind of being stuffed up and all that. So I apologize for that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Subscribe for more content. Like the video, all the good stuff. Discord, Twitch, Instagram, links in the description. And I'll see you guys in the next video.